Hello.
Hello, Shane. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Glad to hear that. What's up, Melissa? How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Brian, how's it going? Good to see you guys again. Oh, still on mute, Brian. Not sure what's happening. Luca, what's up, buddy?
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
How you guys doing?
Doing great. Yourself?
Very good. I actually just showed you a text because I'm actually already at work, as you can tell. So I'm not going to be able to see those live, but I would love to see the recording of those meetings. So
Absolutely. We'll make sure it gets out through the email. Since you're registered, it'll come out to you, all right?
yeah, absolutely. That's
By the way,
it's an interesting situation because sorry.
no, go ahead. What's an interesting situation?
No. Hey, that's an interesting situation because you're popping up right on the perfect time because like I said, we're talking about that business buying. So that's definitely interesting that you guys are doing those type of Zooms.
Yeah, man. I'd love to help out and see we can do. Thank you for thinking of us.
Absolutely. Of course, you got
Awesome.
it.
By the way, you look really good in that outfit. I like the shirt and tie. Yeah, and the short sleeves. Digging it. Yes.
Yeah.
Pulling them up.
Freaking hot.
Yeah. Where are
You're
you?
not in Florida. Yeah, I'm in Florida. Florida is
Ugh,
freaking hot.
ugh.
Of course.
You can stay down there.
Yeah.
Or you can come to us. That would be better. I will stay up here is what I meant to say.
Yeah. I'd love to come check. I remember we talked about it a long time ago. This at the golden ticket to actually come over at the where you have your property. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to
Yeah,
come
man.
check it out.
That'd be great. Would love that.
All right. I'll let you
Awesome.
guys
Thanks.
take care of what you have to do. I'm probably going to go inside and try to listen, and I'll wait for the recording.
Sounds good. Thanks, Luca.
Awesome. You guys. Bye.
Bye. Karen, you made it. It's 5:30. Karen has been trying to come to this meeting for 6 weeks, everybody. She thought it was at 5 because that's how we started. It was at 5 for a little while. And then we switched to 5:30. And she's like, wait a minute.
And I've been gone.
I mean, you
Two
were
trips
just
since then.
in Bali. It's not like you went far. Come on.
Ooh, very jealous.
Well, I'm back and I'm glad to be here. So hello, everyone.
Thanks for coming
No.
back. Awesome. Courtney, our person of the hour. We have yours. Jalen redacted your business. We're going to talk about that one tonight. And then I know someone sent one over recently as well, so we're going to take a peek at that one if we end up getting there. So we'll start taking a look at that. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or anything they wanted to share before we get started?
Not me.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
So I was looking at some businesses and like there was this laundromat that I was looking at because it was the Cody Sanchez and she just raves about laundromats. And so I mean there was some really, really, really basic info about it. And it was like, purchase price 800,000, cash flow 200,000. But it said, if you want the details on it, you gotta sign this NDA and send over a proof of funds. And I'm like, dang, like how many people just have a proof of funds like 800,000 laying around? Like how do we? I mean, that's just to see the info.
Mhm.
I
So,
mean, is that typical?
so for a deal that small, not really.
Typical.
We're talking about like $10 million deal. Yeah, right. That they don't want to play ball unless you don't want to see people kicking tires. What you could do, depending on where you're at, like I don't know what the structure of that deal is. What I like to do is I have to call the person and be like, or the broker and be like, hey, interested in looking at this deal. You know, what can we do to take a look at it? I'm connecting people on this. Like we're a group that we're all coming in on it together. We're a fund of people. That's one way to do it. Sometimes, but you got to build that rapport with them. Sometimes they'll do it. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes you can just ask for it, right? You can just request. Some of these brokers won't even won't even look at what they're supposed to look at. And if, another thing is usually for proof of funds, you only need 10% to show them because that's SBA. Like if you're going to SBA route, 10% is the minimum down payment on that. So they're asking 800K. You can show 80 if that's, if you have retirement funds or if you have, family that does, right? You can show something like that, right? You don't have to show the full 800. So that would be one method of getting access.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Shane.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So I am going to give share access to Marley. Marley, do you have those docs up?
Yes, I have the folder up.
Awesome. So Courtney, you brought this to us, and we're going to take a peek at it and see what's going on. Let me bring you up as well. Cool. So Courtney, can you tell us what this business is? I mean, we can read through this, but based on what you know about it, what is the structure of this business so that we can understand, one, what kind of buyer you are? I want to know what kind of buyer you are as we look at this. We need to understand that, as well as what drew your interest to this business specifically.
Sure. So this, I'd like I could try to pull up my buy box really quick. Like I tried to kind of come up with an idea of what I wanted, kind of when I'm looking at businesses. Let me see if I can get that really quickly. See. Yeah. So in my buy box, I basically have it broken out. So in terms of locations, I'm in Southern California. I'm in Los Angeles. So thinking about anything that's in Southern California, Northern California, New York, Chicago, or online. So this business is online. They kind of run it. It is remote. So there are lots of, it's like nationwide, so you can be anywhere. So that was basically one thing. So check. Overall, the idea of this business is there are people that need in-person notaries for a myriad of things that online notaries won't work for. And primarily what they do is kind of real estate transactions, so closings. And they work with title companies. And basically what they do is they take requests from title companies that need an in-person notary, and then they contract the notary to go to the closing or to go wherever they need. And so the owner lives in North Carolina, but this can be anywhere. And yeah, they were established. It says that they're established in 2001, but I did a little bit more research and it looks like they kind of like started this business originally in 1999. I think they probably got going and maybe went from kind of a hobby to a real business in 2001. In addition to that, kind of my things that I'm looking for this kind of being kind of the first business, I was looking for something that has a minimum profit of 100K a year. So that gets kind of close-ish to that 10K, 9K. In terms of my kind of level of participation, most businesses I'm looking at about 6 to 9 months kind of hands-on in the business and get it running smoothly, and then try to back myself out of the business, install an operator. But really that first 6 to 9 months looking at how I can add value. Revenue size, looking at 500K to 3 million, really trying to eventually get to like that 2 million mark. Yeah, I talked a little bit about my level of participation. Oh, and then age of businesses, just looking at 2020 or older. So this definitely fits the bill. Yeah. When I did a little bit of kind of research on the company and looked in their website and their tools and stuff, noticed that a lot of what they're using is really dated software, really dated databases, not very mobile friendly, which is very odd because they contract these people and then send them out. And part of their processes are they have to send photos of the documents that they notarize back to them. And then that's how they pay. And then they send that via mail, to the title company. And there's just like a lot of opportunity here to influence and add some tech that could probably make this really like much more streamlined. The owner says kind of in the document that they're semi-absentee and they have another employee. But there's a lot of parts of me that believe that tech could probably help decrease some of the human hands-on work that's going on here. But yeah, that's kind of my high level
Love it.
overview.
Love that. So that's great. So you're looking at the current and what it is, and I don't know if Marley, we're gonna talk through it, but I don't even know what the full take home is and all that stuff. I know that it's gonna be in here somewhere, but we'll talk about that later. So you've already kind of looked and said, okay, it's making a certain number. I know that this is potentially profitable. Do we know the purchase price or the asking price on this? Because there's some data in here. We don't have to share it right now because it'll be fun to talk about the valuation that I looked at and then talk about the asking price. And I'd like to see the disparity. Because we didn't see those in there. So I think Marley's going to have a field day with this one in terms of valuation and how they did that. And that's going to be fun for everyone who's here because this is a very different way that someone evaluated this company and gave it a value price based on a certain standardization. And Marley can talk about what that is, but it's not typical. Marley, you can kind of talk about that because I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, I'll cover it when we get there. So fun.
Cool.
And they said the asking price right now is 900,000.
Got it. Thank you.
Very helpful. Okay. So have you spoken to the broker or the seller?
I
Yeah.
did. The broker, I think, and Shane, you mentioned this on one of our previous calls about like being new. I think the broker's also new. So I think he was very kind of like, I don't really know what to say or what to do. So yeah, it was interesting. Two newbies on a call who didn't really know what to ask and who didn't know what to say.
Awesome. I love it. That's no better way to learn than to get in there and just start doing it. So
Yep.
This is gonna be great. Okay, so I imagine that this is their sim, right? Like they didn't provide any other marketing material. Okay.
For those of you who are new, that's a confidential information memorandum, CIM.
Yes. And those range in level of detail and beauty based upon the broker and the organization itself. So we have a nice little summary from the owner here about like what the organization is doing. And let's see. Down. They talk about financial performance for the last 3 years, or the last 2 years and then year to date. So in 2022, the net profit was 274 and then 235 in 2023. Looking at those numbers before I say anything, is there anything that's concerning to anyone else?
Yeah, I will say I was concerned that they're trending down, like
Yes.
not in the right direction.
Not in the right direction at all. So that isn't great. And then also the fact that we don't see 3 years, that would be a cause for concern on my end as well. I'd like to see at least 3 so we can come up with a nice average. So it looks like so far for this year, at least through April, the business is doing relatively well. We don't know until we look in the P&Ls if that's because he changed how he was doing expenses or deductions or how he was paying himself or any of those things yet. So on the surface, Great, he recovered from 2023. Let's move on. This stuck out for me, the operating costs only being $10,000 per year. I think that's just a misunderstanding of what they're trying to say. The operating costs for the entire business is not $10,000 per year. When we get into the P&Ls, we will see that there's a considerable amount that's actually going into the expenses of operating the business. But I think that he means more the, let's see.
I think it means like the
Yeah.
systems, right?
Yeah,
Like
the system
the
costs.
hard costs. that
Yeah,
are-
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And as you said, only one employee. They're only being paid $30,000 a year. That's surprising to me. And pretty wonderful that he's been able to have a semi-absentee role, and with one person basically operating everything. Okay. True expenses of the business. This all looks good, nothing too exciting. I would have loved to have seen more like snapshots of the actual financials in here versus just like picking and choosing what data points to share with us. Let's see. It does show right here that there's quite a bit of his own personal expenses that he's running through the business. This is not something that you should generally do, or if you have a different business running expenses for that other business through your business, I don't recommend. Your books will just be a mess. Okay. So the estimated valuation that we are being given here is between 1.05 and 1.15 million. On its face, to me, that seems high. When I'm looking at the SDE of, let's say, roughly 250-ish a year, for a small notary business, I would expect maybe 1.3 to 3x, like max, on the multiple. So I would expect to purchase this somewhere between, what is it, 375 to 700, thereabouts. So when we come down to this business valuation report, we can see that it was prepared by a CPA. So we have here that the statement of standards for valuation services of the AICPA. So I think we've talked about in previous Zooms that business buying is way different than real estate. Real estate, all of us have basically, not all of us, but the powers that be have decided that there's a standard evaluation method for value for real estate. There really isn't one for business, but this is a group of CPAs that attempted to create that for themselves, I think in like early 2000. When it comes to buying a business, the market value is really what the market is going to pay for it. Like we can come up with some guidance and guidelines as to what other businesses that are similarly situated have sold for in the past couple of years, but it's just not as regimented and standardized as we would like it to be. But based on their analysis, they're saying 1.5 million, which again, that's even higher than the earlier the earlier valuation. And now maybe that 1.5 makes sense if someone like you have already came into the business and updated all of the systems and processes and got it to a place where it's truly running with just one human, super efficient, and no, like there's something to be said about like true IP or like a tech backbone to a business like this. I think that there is extreme potential in this business because you can come in and provide that. So we come down here to the tax returns, and we see again the continuation of the downward trend in discretionary cash flow. So we already saw it before from 2022 to 2024. Now we're seeing a 4-year view and it's continually trending downward. So I think there more needs to be kind of like dug into to understand what was happening in the business to create this constant and steady decline over the last few years. And we see in 2022, he didn't even pay himself a salary. So what was happening in the business that year, which was supposedly doing better than 2023, but he didn't pay himself. So yeah, this is just the numbers are considered when we come down and we see that we have the add backs again, we've talked about those before. These are all very typical when coming up with what the actual cash flow and SDE is. But we want to take a mental note to look at the P&Ls and try to get an understanding of, again, why the financials are declining. If we can't figure it out on our own, there needs to be a further conversation with the broker and or preferably the seller to get a better understanding of what's happening in the business. So we come down here and this is basically how the CPA did their evaluation. When we come to the summary value, the capitalization rate of the cash flow comes to 563. So that is in line with what I would pay for this business, 100%. Like that's a healthy multiple on the cash flow. What is bringing up this valuation in the CPA's mind is the intellectual properties of the business. I think this is to be argued, especially if he has built it on just very aged tech that you're going to have to completely update. I'm not to say that he shouldn't get some level of compensation for creating what he's created today. I just don't think it's 550. Any questions so far? And I feel like I'm kind of moving through this.
No, and so really quick, does he have any references? Like I think I saw some references to what software and stuff they were using. Is that on there? I think it was some Trello or some other pieces. I'm not really sure what they were using, but I thought I saw in there somewhere there was a couple pieces of software. So he's really not, it's not really IP, it's just created some workflows with other software, right? So essentially using a system that can automate, there you go, Twilio, database, like Outlook Mail, right? All of these things, nothing from what we can see, unless he actually has some like specialized software that's doing this, right? And then maybe that's a potential IP valuation that can be done. But from what I'm seeing, it's just Twilio is just a phone call system. Whatever the database they're using is probably just holding all their stuff like a CRM of some kind. And they're just using Outlook Mail. So they probably just have some automations built into Twilio or whatever the database is. And that's really about it. So that's not exactly IP. Maybe the way that he gets clients and the way that he gets things, there's might be something on the back end there. But based on the what's the right word? The thoroughness of this, even just as Word doc, you can tell it was done on a spiral notebook or something. I can't even tell what that was printed on, but like it's probably not likely that this person has a software that they've created. Now, we don't know that, but I would have put that into my sim to make sure that everyone knew like this is a very, very valuable thing. Any of these things could be done manually. Right now, it's the database that's most valuable with this company, in my opinion, and the connections that they have. And yes, the workflows in the system, but like I look at this and I automatically see like Uber for basically for getting notaries, right? You can create an app that says, here's all the notaries, and anyone can just jump on and choose, and hey, I'll take that one. Hey, I'll take that one. And I'll be there on Thursday at 3 o'clock, right? That is what I see this turning into. And I'm sure that's what you saw as well, Courtney. And Jalen said that's how he runs his business, right? Like there's a way to do all of this. It's you're the middle person. And that's the beauty of it. So I'll be quiet for a second because I'm sure that there's more that we can keep talking about.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was helpful. Okay, so again, they didn't share a lot of financials in here, so we're gonna move over to the P&Ls, but we're going to remember this downward trend
We
year
got
over
one
year.
question real quick, Marley, from
Oh,
Karen.
yes, yes.
Hi, thanks. Just real quick, what is owner discretion? I see that line item there, right where, yeah, where your cursor is.
Yeah,
What would that
so
be?
it's very likely that he was taking a disbursement on either a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis, based off of whatever the profit of the business was for that time period. So that's additive. That's why it's in the add back section to the overall discretionary cash flow to the owner.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so we're gonna remember that we saw a decline in SDE year over year for the last couple of years. And then we are going to remember, let me see, I think he had a different call out. So that net profit is a different amount up in this paragraph for 2022 and 2023 than we have for the SDE amounts from his tax returns. So just flag it, remember it, and we're gonna head over to the P&Ls. Okay, see if I can pull that up. That's 2020. 2021. Okay. All right, so the farthest back that we have for P&Ls is 2021. When evaluating, we see that our top line revenue is at 800, well, top line's actually 851. And then we have a gross profit of 279. That is quite a big jump from top line to gross profit, but remember, this is basically a business with 1.5 employees and they are using all contractors. So this notary fee is likely all of the compensation going to the contractors that are doing the actual notary services. Okay, and then we come down to our expense section. Everything looks pretty standard. Auto expenses, I believe he may have listed as an add back. Marketing is standard. Payroll is in line with what he said. But when we come down, we see a net operating income of 129. I believe for 2021, let me see if I can navigate back to the other screen here. 2021, oh, he didn't show 2021. Okay, so I will give him that because it's not there. Okay, so for 2021, he had $129,000 in net operating income. And then he took depreciation, which brought him down to 118. When he goes to do EBITDA, I don't think he was doing EBITDA. He's doing SDE, but if he was doing EBITDA, you can add back your depreciation as well when it comes to the discretionary income.
And I want to just really quick, again, I know we have some new people here. So EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and
Amortization.
amortization. Thank you. I was like, damn, I had this.
You're so close.
So essentially it's taking your your gross profit, and then you're subtracting or adding back all these pieces that he may have taken out. Like he might have paid himself a little extra here, or he might have done bought a car that shouldn't be in the business. So that would be put on that, right? Like, so different things get added back in so that when he sells the business, he's like, well, these aren't really the expenses you normally would have, or these are the expenses that you should have, right? Because now I'm leaving, so now you have to subtract that amount because now I am an employee that needs to be replaced. So that is how you do an EBITDA, and now you end up with a price or an income that you would normally have if those things were not removed or added in, if that makes sense.
Oh, I'm so glad that you just mentioned his salary. Okay, so he had listed his salary as an add back. As Shane was just saying, we or Courtney would have to replace him, whether it's replacing him with her own talents and efforts for the 6 to 9 months, or placing an operator in. That is not a true add back. So that cannot be counted for him. It's counted against him. We are going to have to spend that $50,000 elsewhere. Unless, I'll put an asterisk, you're able to build out a back end with technology that removes the need for whatever tasks he was completing. Yes.
Yeah, Courtney, you can ask. You're good.
Well, and now it looks like, as I'm reviewing, it looks like he left out the other part-time salary that he has, because he has himself plus a part-time person. But I just see, well, it says owner's salaries, so maybe they are
Yeah.
spouses.
So are you talking about the full-time employee making the 30,000?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's not here because it's not an add back. So he's trying to claim that this is an add back and should be counted towards the overall cash flow of the business. But it can't be because we have to replace him and replace, whether it's with technology, which will cost you some amount of money per year, or with a human, regardless, it's going to have cost associated with it. So let's say you were able to solve the problem with a $30,000 tech solution, then he can only add back 20,000, like in reality. You're not going to get into the weeds as to the how of it with him, but you're likely going to say, no, I have to replace you with another human being. That human being is likely going to cost me $50,000. That is not truly an add back that you can count for yourself.
Right.
Got it. Sounds good.
And it might even be a negative 30,000, right? Because if you're trying to bring on an operations person that's going to take over everything, that might be a negative because now you're replacing a salary and then have to pay more, right? So these add backs are just things that he felt or feels that should not be credited against him or against the business as an expense.
Exactly. All right, let's move down to 2022. We have top line revenue has decreased from previous. Let me see, what did we have in 2021? 850. Yeah. So we decreased pretty significantly down to a top line of 586 and a gross profit of 214. Now we come down again, all the same expenses, nothing is sticking out of concern. Except until we get down here, the net income is 130,000. When we were looking at his sim for 2022, he has the 131,000, but he has done all of these add backs, which brought him up to 180. But even this 180 doesn't match the net profit that he has listed above, which he has at 274. So all of these numbers are already not tying out with one another. And we haven't even really dug deep into the financials. So just something to think about and consider, especially if you're going to, again, have another conversation with him. I would recommend having a conversation directly with the seller, especially if the broker is more junior in this space. And then definitely have that conversation before you'd actually put in an LOI or an offer. Okay. So let's move on to, oh, no, it's 2024. 2023, we see another decline in top line revenue. This is not the direction that we want to be moving. Let's see if the gross profit is significantly different. Okay, gross profit stayed in line with one another, so that's not terrible. Again, expenses look similar. Reconciliate descriptions. Yeah, everything else looks the same, but whoa, only $57,000 for NOI for 2023. I'm back over here. 2023, he said 235 for net profit. That's strange. 2023, he does have the correct amount on his tax returns, which is good. But again, this add back would not fly. This one, that one would probably be okay. Depreciation rent is fine. Owner's discretion is fine. But again, numbers are not tying out appropriately or correctly across the P&L and what he is giving as his net profit earlier in this document. And it could be that he's just using the term incorrectly. Maybe he means gross profit. The numbers still quite aren't right, but at least they're closer and in the neighborhood. But it's something worth digging into and getting a better understanding of. All right, and then that brings us to 2024 year to date. Well, not quite year to date through June. Top line is at 200. To me, that doesn't show that 2024 is doing considerably better than 2023. That's almost halfway through the year. And if he continued in the same trajectory, we're still looking at a sub $500,000 revenue for the year. See gross profits at 98. See here wages. Make sure he's still paying himself through the business. Yeah. Yeah, so an NOI of 28. Yeah, so just from this initial sniff test, my opinion is 900,000 is wildly off base. You know, but sellers have a very strong connection to the businesses that they build. It's their babies. Like that is going to be very typical. And I think we've all experienced it with buying real estate as well. But even more so with business buying because it's truly their babies. Like they created it and, you know, want to see it grow and, you know, last forever. But my suggestion would be to, again, have that additional conversation with the broker. I think at a high level, this business is very interesting. And I think with a strong operator coming in to clean it up, add technology, efficiencies, SOPs, it'll be worth, you know, 3-4x in a very short period of time. But yeah, so have that conversation, and if you get additional financials and additional context and answers, I'd be happy to take another look and give you what like my starting offer would be. So you can kind of be armed with that in further conversations if you decide to move forward with it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions on that, Courtney?
I don't know that I do. I mean, also feel free to let me know if I should, because I also don't know what I don't know. I think definitely I felt like the financials look weird, but I was like, I also don't know what I'm looking for, and I've never done this before. So I was like, we'll see what everyone else thinks. So definitely glad to know that. And yes, I want to go back and see if we can get some more clarity on that, and particularly the underlying reason for the downward trajectory. I think last week we maybe talked about things like understanding, are there personal relationships tied to some of this? Like,
Yep.
you know, if you get this business, are you going to have title companies that have a personal connection with someone and they want to take their business elsewhere, or things like that? So yeah, getting some understanding on that would probably be wise.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And then also make sure that you get like the direct exports for his balance sheets, his profit and loss, not just a PDF. I would want to see an Excel and a PDF for all of the things. And then including his taxes for the last 3 years. So you're going to want to see the actual documents.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I will request that. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. And then one of the things that I would look into, just being that it's trending downward, right? I would look at a couple different things, just at a high level, like market wise, right? Why is it trending downward, right? That's the question you want to ask. Like, it doesn't say it's starting to go back up. Like, even if it's starting to go back up, they're only like their best month was 24. That still doesn't hit that $270,000 take, like those numbers still don't get you where you need to be. Especially if it was, I don't know if that was that profits, the 24, or was that gross?
You're saying it's net, but I think that there's confusion in terminology. So
Yeah.
we need to see the direct exports from his accounting software, the direct tax returns. And then, like building upon what you're saying, it sounds like he's running another business at the same time. So it could very well be that he's just not giving this one enough attention, but you need to dig in and understand
Yeah.
if that's it or if it's something else.
Absolutely. Yeah. See what the market's doing. Cause I mean, I know mobile, like people show up to like middle of hotel conferences. I've seen people sign stuff like
Yeah.
in parks, like people, this is a needed thing. What does that look like? And is it only for title companies? I don't think so. I think the market is huge, right? Like we know that there's the online notaries now, but like this says, like some things need to be, hand signed, but is that going away completely, right? Like that's another thing to think about. Like, do they need to have ink to paper? If it's federal documents or state documents, probably, right? Because they want to see ink. But there's certain things to look at. And just see what other app, if there's an app out there already, the Uber of notaries. Like if there's nothing out there, like that's a big light to turn on, right? And see like, oh, okay, what could be developed, what could be done, and how quickly could you get it to market? Because it's not like you can probably use another system that's already designed for this type of thing and just do some workflows within it, right? So it seems like there's a lot of opportunity there. But yeah, you got to look at all the different pieces. But on the surface, for that price and for even at a 2x, right? Like you're buying a business on the downward trend, so you'd really have to see what would need to be done. But it
Yeah.
looks pretty. It has a lot of potential. But we don't buy on potential. Remember that.
Yeah. And we also need to know what we're 2xing. There's too many numbers everywhere that aren't aligning with one another before we can multiply anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is this service similar to eForms or DocuSign or something like that? Is this
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, no. So these would be specific notaries. So if you've ever had a document that, they say you need to go, oftentimes people have to go to their bank. If they ever have to go to a notary in person, they have to go to the bank or the post office or the UPS store or something. And they have to have someone there that can validate their identity, that they are who they say they are. And they're signing the document with a witness. And then the notary says, person who am certified to be to validate identity, say that this person is who they say they are, they have a stamp, you know, and they do, you know, the state of Texas, and boom, you know, and then they sign that. There are services now that do this virtually, but there are still some documents and some processes that require a wet signature. And so that means it has to be done in person.
And that's what this service provides. It provides a way to connect notaries to that interaction or to that title company right now, so that they can hire them on the fly. Like, hey, look, everybody, I've got these 5 things that need to be signed and notarized. Who wants it? And then people just jump on and grab pretty much who wants to do it because they're local or whatever it might be.
Or maybe go a little backwards and start looking what services need that service, and see from there if you can go upwards or why it's going down. It's downsizing this business. Maybe there is not too much need for this service anymore.
My suspicion, just because of the trend, is that he has aligned this business very tightly with real estate. There's like a huge boom in 2020, lots of real estate transactions. Because interest rates went up, you started to see a slowdown in the market. And I think he's really aligned himself with real estate. But I agree, there's like estate planning, there's like health, medical directives, like all kinds of things that you would need a wet signature for, or even just people that don't have access to a computer to upload a PDF and then have it notarized virtually. But I think he has just not kind of expanded the business in that direction. But I agree with Shane and Marley's thinking. I think he is part-time on another business, so he's not considering how it could expand.
Interesting.
Cool. Thank you, Courtney, for bringing that. Folks, this is what we want to do on a weekly basis. So we have another one we're going to pull up in a second. But we want you to send us these different deals that you're looking at so we can all talk about this, right? Courtney was looking at it, didn't know what she was looking at, and in the sense that, like, I think it's something, right? And it has potential. Again, we didn't know everything was messed up. That's why she was like, I don't know what I'm looking at, because it was messed up, right? Like, we're all very aware and able to look at these things, but it's really nice to have a second, third, 12th pair of eyes on this to give you a input, right? We really want you to bring these deals. And we have the link in the chat right now. So if you want to jump on that, Jalen put that, and Jalen, you can just do that again. That'd be awesome. And then that way we can keep doing this, because I think this is the most valuable part of it, is giving input, giving feedback. And just remember, like, I have to do a disclaimer, like, we are not accountants, we are not advisors, we're just giving you our input based on education to show you all what's going on and what we think. I just had to say that so I don't get sued. But so I'm gonna pull up the next one that Connie brought on for us, so I'm gonna jump on. Give me 1 sec to do that. Thank you again, Courtney. All right, let's do, how do I do that? Hold on, that didn't work. Oh, I can't bring you up, Connie, because you don't have your camera on. But when you do, let me know and I'll bring you on. But until then, oh, there you are. Perfect. Add spotlight. Cool. All right, Connie. So we have something that I know you're doing some stuff, but real quick, just tell us why you looked at this deal. You're on mute, by the way. Why you saw this deal? What drew you to it? You don't have to tell us location or any of that fun stuff, but what's the rationale for why you're looking at this one?
No worries. I want to be an owner investor. I don't want to operate anything. I want to just make money passively. And I was also looking for something that was semi close to where I live in case I did have to go as an owner. The current owner, actually, they're selling it because they moved way, way far away. But they were only an owner investor. So that was perfect. It is self-sufficient, it's close by, and the NOI was 6 figures.
Okay, cool.
Those are my 3 points.
Love it. All right, awesome. So
I'm sorry, a 4th point. I was also only looking at businesses that specifically said seller financing available.
Got it. Beautiful.
Good one.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So that's perfect. So we'll go ahead and skim through all of this. We'll start talking about it. And just again, I didn't see too much documentation. I think it's just got a basic sim. So this is they're calling it a CBAT. right? A confidential business analysis tool, right? It's really just a SIM. It's CIM, confidential information memorandum is what we call them. So this has been redacted again by Jalen so that we don't have any issues. They're asking $375 for this business. And I'm going to talk a tiny bit quickly just because we have about 10 minutes left, folks, and I want to respect everyone's time. If we go over a couple minutes and you want to stick around, great, but I want to be aware of everyone's time. I know that some, even on our team, have to jump out. So we've got all the, it's a pretty looking confident sim for the most part. They've got some nice things going on. Talks about confidentiality, so we redacted everything, so you can't do that. All right, I'm rocking and rolling. Cool. So this is a diner. All right, so this is an established diner with an owner operator taking home 130,000. So that Connie, that gives me a little bit of a sign that this might not be an owner investor business. That says owner operator. So we just want to be aware of that as we look through this. We'll look at the numbers and see what's going on. So this is a diner that's for sale. It is sales of 600,000. So that's how much they're bringing in total, their revenue. And then they're taking home 134,000 a year. So that means that they are taking 134. That means that's their salary and their discretionary income, meaning that any net profits after all expenses, salaries, and everything is taken. So my guess is they're taking a salary of somewhere around 80 or 100 or 110, and then they're probably pulling in the rest as income or net income. So it's talking about here that is SBA approval possible. So that means that this is it's already been vetted and looked at in the SBA lens by like a SBA loan, like a 7A loan. And that can be stuff we can talk about later, or you can just go down the rabbit hole if you'd like. SBA requires personal guarantees as well as 10% down. So that might not be up your alley, everyone. It also requires credit scores and other things. So this says right in there, generates 134 for the entrepreneur who's looking for a hands-on approach. So again, to me, Connie, that looks like it's probably unless they've replaced these people. And maybe these numbers are based on last year. When did they move? Do you know?
Yeah, they moved earlier this year. They've already got a manager and they're running everything. So it's officially hands off.
Okay, cool. So our numbers
Yep.
might not show with that manager. So we just got to be aware of that, right? Because right. So just be aware when we're looking through these. It's been running
Really quickly, sorry, do you have the year-to-date financials as well?
It's in this one.
It's in here? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Cool. So 1999 is when it was established. That's a good sign. It's more than 3 years. Here's their rent. CAM, Marley, can you tell us what CAM represents again? It's something to do with maintenance, right? Like it's basically rent, including certain maintenance.
Yeah,
pieces.
I actually don't know that off of the top of my head.
Yeah, I always forget that one. I know
But
there's
it's
like
normally like your share of utilities, maintenance.
community. Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. So
like
it's whatever the commercial maintenance is. It's probably like parking lot maintenance or anything that is shared with this property. It's probably in a strip mall or in a rental property that has multiple units. There you go. So profitable area, easy transition, turnkey location, equipment is on there. And then it just, advertising, right? So remember, the goal of the broker is to make the deal look as best as possible, right? So it's being offered for 375, which is about a 2.5 multiple or something in that range, 2.4. Yeah, so that's pretty much where that's at. They've owned it for 5 years. They relocated. So that means it's been open since 99. So they're not the first owner. So that's also a good sign that it's been able to pass hands depending on the trend of finances we're talking about. So this is just kind of informing you of what's going on. Marley, do you want to go over COGS or what again? I apologize, my words.
COGS is
Yes, I got it. Sorry. I get excited when I like remember acronyms. Cost of goods and services. Thank you. So that means the napkins, the food, all those pieces, the straws, anything that they have to use, the cleaning materials, and that's in the cost of goods and services. They've had $599 in sales, so 600 in sales. We don't know what year this is based on, so we're not 100%. And then the SDE is 134. We don't know 100% on what that is based on just yet, right? We're gonna look and go over that. 5,500 monthly rent, 2,000 square foot lease. So that's how big the diner is, including the kitchen, I assume. Now, 1 week of owner training. That to me is a little very low, right? Whether you have a manager or not, a week of owner training is not going to be enough for a transition to work with the staff, understand who they are, understand the nuances of who, like a week, you're not even going to know who your landlord is. You're going to need to know more than just that because everything has to transition, the books, the finances, the bookkeepers, all those types of things need to transition over. So that would be a negotiation point, whether they're remote or not. That would be a negotiation point. Maybe it's 1 week hands-on and then 3 months remote or a month remote, whatever it might be. Okay, but
Okay.
there is some nice things here, like you said, seller finance, right? So 10% down, that's the same as SBA, right? Instead of having to go to the SBA and get financing, pretty cool.
Yeah, that's stellar.
Yeah. And so did they say what their requirements are to do that at all? Do they want you to have a certain credit score or this or that?
So after speaking with the broker today and going over the financials and a bunch of other stuff with them, the broker is open to assumption on all loans and seller finance with the remaining balance, which creates a tax credit or tax benefit for the seller because now instead of selling for the 375, he's only selling for the 115, which is the difference.
Yep. Okay. So that means you have to be approved for those loans, right? So that's something to think about. You're going to have to reapply essentially
Yeah.
to get approval. Like you have to show your income, you have to show your credit scores, you have to do all that fun stuff in order for that to transfer over. Now, there are other ways to do that, right? If we're thinking more creative, you can basically, let's say the loan is 5%, you can say, hey, I'll pay 6%, you collect the extra interest and you keep the loan in your name. They would have to stay on the business in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of nuances to that, but there's still an option for that, which is really nice. And you might even save in some transfer taxes. They might save in some transfer taxes of the business. There's numerous things that could be saved, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's open to all of that. Just as long as it's legit. It's an SBA EIL loan at 1.5%, which he got during COVID because he's a restaurant. And the other one is the loan that he used to purchase the restaurant, and that's between 5 and 6%.
Cool.
So the purchase loan, I could assume creatively. The SBA EIL, well, we get into pace thinking on that one, right? Like SBA EILs are assumable, by the way, but you do have to go through the legit process. Stop it. You have to go through the actual process of getting approved with the SBA. Like some lenders, they don't all offer assumptions, but the ones that do will give it if you qualify for it. So it's just getting creative with it. And then, yeah, the seller's completely open to everything. They just want to be done with it.
Cool.
And their requirements on the 10% was if you get an SBA loan to pay off his existing loans. Right. So he's flexible on the 10% down payment. If I'm not having to give him the money to pay off those 2 loans, then he's more flexible on that down payment as well.
Got it.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I would imagine you wouldn't really have to do much of a down payment if you're assuming 115 and
the seller's actually being very reasonable with this, and the broker already knew about seller finance. Obviously, he had it listed that way. And he's just now learning about assumptions, all the creative side with the businesses. And he's fully on board. He was like, hey, if you explain it to me and I need to go back and explain it to him because this is fantastic, kind of what you're thinking of. We got that going for us as well.
Beautiful. I love that. Cool. And yeah, it would be interesting to talk also about what if he wants an interest rate, right? I wouldn't even bring that up with him for his portion. I would just take it zero. I would just say, I'll give you payments over time and not even bother trying to say what interest rate do you want, right?
Exactly. I'm hoping I can negotiate with him on a 0 down, 0%, and a 90-day no pay.
That'd be nice. That'd be really nice. Yeah. Cool. Cool thing is, you have a liquor license. You'd have to find out what that takes to transfer that, if it transfers with the business or the person.
I don't know, no liquor license. That's why there's no yes or no. There's nothing other than liquor license. They
Oh, okay.
close at 2 p.m. So it's a
Got it.
breakfast and lunch restaurant only.
Okay.
Less costs, no transfer.
Got it. I thought this was like, hey,
No.
bonus.
Yeah,
Got
a
it.
call
Okay.
out, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good
All
thing.
good.
Yeah. All right. So we've got net sales. So we only have 1 year of financials, right? There's a flag for us to understand a little more. The food industry is very tricky right now, just because cost of goods and supply chain is just rampantly crazy. So keep that in mind that you could literally bomb your business in a 6 month time period because of cost of like 4 products that are your main staples, right? Being a
Right.
diner, you probably aren't going to have that issue because you have such a wide spread of things. That's why there's so many things on that menu. When you go to a diner, there's like a huge amount of stuff because they have to. That's how they diversify their portfolio. Essentially, is they spread all the things they offer. A steakhouse is going to get hit when the beef industry goes up, right? Whatever else is around is going to get hit specifically for those industries. But usually, why diners do okay is because they spread it out. So gross margin, meaning that if you take all your costs subtracted from the net sales, you're around 178. And then you've got all your, I mean, they've only spent $20 on advertising the entire year, or promotions. Like you can get people in the door just by giving away free meals, and there's a lot of potential to grow that business by bringing people in. Auto is 24,000, so that means that they have a car or they have a delivery vehicle. I'm not sure what this specifically might be.
It's a personal car, already verified. It is not business. So
So that would be an add back.
mhm.
So I'm just looking to see if there's anything crazy here. Interest is at 8.6%. Is that of the total
The two
amount?
combined.
The sales. Okay, got it. Okay, yep. Personal travel. And yeah, so nothing looks too out of line here that I'm seeing. It all looks, do you see anything, Marley, that would?
Do you know what because I imagine they're paying themselves in the salaries and wages? Or was there an officer salary or somewhere listed that I missed?
I believe officer salary is listed below. It goes into the specific add backs for his NOI.
Got
There
it.
you go.
There we go.
Or
Thank
DE.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, owner
All right.
salary. Interest expense.
Would that be an add back?
That would not be an add back if you're gonna assume those loans.
Right.
Well, it is for EBITDA, not for discretionary earnings. That's more like cash flow.
So can you explain the difference between that real quick, Marley? Because EBITDA to a lot of people probably means discretionary, so we want to make sure we clarify.
Yeah, so EBITDA is your earnings before interest. So that's why he can add back interest if he's talking about EBITDA, depreciation, amortization, and taxes. For SDE, we typically think of that more so as cash flow. So the money that you can put in your pocket as an owner every month or at the end of the year, or however you take your distributions. I would need to better understand the interest expense to provide a better opinion as to whether it should be included here. It again can be included for EBITDA, but if we're talking about like cash flow to you, that might be a continued expense for the business. So that's something to be, to consider.
And I did ask the broker about that, and yes, they had assumed that I would be paying off, that they would be paying off their loans with the purchase, right, of the 375, which is why he put it in there like that. So correct, it would not be an add back for this situation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's just, I'm glad you flagged it. That's just something to consider.
Okay, cool. So we don't know what this other is. It's a pretty big other.
That's the auto that was up top.
Oh, got it. Thank you. Okay.
Mhm.
Yep. So that's the add back. Yep, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So I mean, owner salary is 29, like, let's say, so you're really, let's pretend you still have that interest charge, right? So this SDE, if you're calling this SDE, you got to subtract 51 from the 34. So you're now down to 80, right? So that's immediately, right? And being that this is not a business of like monthly recurring revenue or anything like that, like these numbers are not as solid as they might be if it was something like a subscription based business, right?
Mm.
Which food, you really can't do that. But you can, your marketing, like we talked about up here, if you increase your marketing and you did different things for advertising, I mean, $20, I know diners are just diners, right? But there could be promotions that are done, and maybe there is promotions in here, I don't see it. But doing promotions or coupons or whatever, yeah, that is promotions, advertising promotion. So doing things like that, there could be an increase in sales just by doing that, right? You have loss leaders like eggs at the supermarket. They sell eggs at cost or less, so they take a loss on them so that they can sell other things and get you in the door. So equipment, this is stuff that is not part of the building itself. So you got all these pieces. It looks like, okay, the fryers. Do we have a stove or a
Normally for assets, they provide what the values or like assessed values at that time are. Do you have that, or
I
is this
don't
all that
think
they
so.
provided? This is
Probably.
It's all they provided, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that you can get an understanding of like, okay, let's say all these assets are worth $325,000. Not that these would be. Cool. Buy that business for 375, and you can just, if you need to, you sell the assets, right? And that's a
Mhm.
win, right? All right, let's see.
Whenever assets, when liquidated, cover the majority of the cost of a purchase, like that's again a stellar
Yeah.
purchase.
Yeah. So the lease is good till 2029, so you got at least 5 years, and then you have the option to renew for another 5, it looks like. So that's really great. That's fantastic of a lease to continue doing, especially in the current market for things like that. So really nice that those terms are in place. So current owner's hour, like there's no info on this. You called and you talked to them a little bit, right? You know that they're remote, but we don't know what their income is on this remote right now unless it's here.
It's mostly the charge-offs. I mean, last year he had $7,000 worth of free meals, $25,000 towards his personal vehicle, on top of his $30,000 salary. So,
Right.
looking at it from my perspective, right? Like once we take out his personal expenses, I think the cash flow is sufficient to get the time to pay off the loans, and then that other 50 grand isn't even an issue anymore, right? Because we're taking them over, and those are less than 235,000 combined.
Okay. And payment to him, you'd have to figure out to make it palatable, right? To come out of that income as well.
And also it calls out here, no cash on hand or cash in the bank. If you're taking over a restaurant, you would want to negotiate at least a couple months of operating expenses to be left in the bank account. So you can add that to your negotiations for the asking price, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But make sure that you're not left at zero.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually notating that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that popped out to me too. I was like, ooh, that's for such a cash heavy business, you need to have something in hand. Yeah, so it's really going to be a lot of approval pieces, right? You have to get approved for all the other pieces to take over any loans. It doesn't have a franchise, but a landlord and then a lender. So those probably aren't very hard. But for the most part, it seems like everything is pretty set in stone here. Let me see if there's, so it talks about the restaurant industry and the growth. They talk about 2020 to 2021. That's not relevant right now, right? We're in 2024. So this data here is totally nil.
Out of date. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think he only added it because restaurants took such a huge hit during COVID.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Restaurant resale profit margins. All right, let's see. This is just kind of There you go. So gross profit margin, they're saying is 7, what?
70.
How is, that doesn't make sense, because he's only taking home.
On the
No, no, no,
gross.
no, on the gross profit, not net profit.
Gotcha.
Net profit margin, 22.
That makes more sense.
Ah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's quite high. I don't
Well, his
have the numbers in front of me to,
is 134 over 600.
wait, what?
134 over 600,000. 130.
Oh.
That's so that's about 22.
Okay, yeah,
But again, those numbers are based on certain things that need to be re-edited in. So now there is a manager in place. Does that get broken out anywhere here?
I
like,
don't think so because this was prepared before he moved.
Okay.
okay.
So that's
yeah.
an expense that you, unless he's
Mm.
already, unless that manager was always there and they just said, okay, you're taking over more. But that number you need to know, because that's
Okay.
gonna completely take away from your SDE. Because if they had to replace themselves at 60,000 and you're only making 80, now you've got 20,000 to play. Like, that's not gonna function. Because you're not gonna get someone for much less than 60,000 for a manager full time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Restaurant or not, right? All right.
Also, make sure you request the year-to-date financials. So yes, you need
Yeah.
the trailing 3 years, but you need the year-to-date, especially since they've had a drastic change in how they operate, to Shane's point. So we
Right.
need to see where all the money's going now.
Absolutely. So we got 6. So this is just breaking it down even further, which is a nice printout. It's pretty much the same stuff we just saw. But this is done by month. What's this done by?
No, it's just the whole thing with all levels. Instead of giving you an overview of all the expenses, it's detailed.
Okay.
Line item, that's what I was trying to say.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, I'm glad you remembered, because I didn't.
Sorry, I muted myself. Another call out for this. When you are getting the P&Ls, you're going to want a month by month view if possible. So then you can
Okay.
understand the seasonality of your business as well, not just
Yeah.
the summary of the full year.
Yeah, because like the reason
Gotcha.
I was wondering if it's monthly is because this interest payment, right? The interest payment we know is 51,000.
Right.
This is only showing 5,100, so that might be a monthly, not a yearly, right? So I don't know what this number, where those are coming from. So something to keep an eye on. Yeah, you're definitely gonna want the T12, the trailing 12. Yeah, I mean, just comparing back and forth between this and the other thing we looked at. I mean, everything looks pretty close. But look at your net income. 11,000 on this one, right? Like, how does that align with what they just talked to us about, right?
The majority was ad backs.
The majority was
Yeah.
ad, but even the ad backs, right?
Yeah.
So 120, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but again, until we understand what the number now, so year to date, we can't even assess whether the ad backs even make sense.
Yeah.
But you can't really do their salary as an example as an ad back because they obviously had to replace themselves. So what is that? What does that look like? It could actually be subtraction instead of an ad back if they're paying them more.
Yeah, so ask for the direct, like, this is a direct export, so ask for a month by month export from 2021 through today.
Okay.
And you're gonna want their taxes from 2021 through today. And then you're gonna want their balance. This is a P&L, right, Marley? Not a balance sheet?
This is a P&L.
Yeah, and then you're gonna want their balance sheet from 2021 to today. You want all 3 of those documents, sets of documents, so you can see both the trend, any changes, any discrepancies, any like craziness that might have happened, to understand, right? So like I said, when I first looked at this, I skimmed through it when you sent it over, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a great marketing document. It's saying 130K, but we know that that's can't be possible for an owner operator is what it says, right? But for an owner investor, you're not talking the same language as the broker. Ah, thank you. Someone said common area maintenance. Thank you for the CAM.
Ah,
I knew there was something with common.
I should know that working with condos so much. Common area
Oh,
maintenance.
yeah.
Cool. Was this helpful?
It was. It was. I still think I'm gonna put in a deal eventually, but there's still some things I want to work out with the broker and the owner. I mean, just seeing from what you guys saw, right? Just from looking at 2023, and I have the tax returns, but 21 and 22 were both losses, obviously. That's what you want to do. And it's not as detailed. And it's like, see statement 4. And I'm like, well, where's my statement 4 to tell me what that $100,000 was? And he hasn't filed 2023 yet. So he's still on an extension. So this is really all I was able to do. I mean, looking at it, I still think it's something I'm ready to jump on. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
aside from
Absolutely.
getting all this extra. Yeah.
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 Just
Gather everything and again, bring it back. Even if you don't, if you just want to get time with me or Shane, like we're happy to dig in further and provide
That
some
would be
direction.
awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah. My first time buying a business, so
It's a wild ride.
It is.
it is. It's a little scary, kind of intimidating a little bit, but I'm like, I've run businesses and I've underwritten, you know, homes and businesses and everything I like. I'm like, why can't I? Somebody's open to it, right? Like
Do it.
that's the hardest thing, getting somebody open to create a finance. And this one was listed as it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, and you'd be surprised how many businesses, it's normal language for businesses, to be honest. At least a piece of it or a version of it, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot less convincing needing to be
Mhm.
done than
Yeah.
have a home,
Than
right?
real
'Cause it's
estate,
like,
yeah.
it's the norm. It's like, and like I said, the rapport, that's what it's all about. You know, it's about that rapport. That's great. Yeah. So, anyone have any other questions real quick before we all head on out? Because I don't want to keep you, I know we're over by 20 minutes almost. I want to make sure everyone got value out of this. All right. Could I ask you all to please invite friends, invite 5 people to this for next week that might be interested. Also send in those deals. Jalen, if you wouldn't mind just dropping that link one last time. It's also going to be coming out in the registration, in the emails that we send out. It'll always be at the bottom of that. We'll make sure it's kind of like in there, embedded into it. But it's a Google Doc when you go through it. And we didn't go through it together yet, but I'm going to quickly show it because I don't think we actually went through it live. Did we do that, Marley? Or I know it's the end of our meeting, but I want to show everyone really quick how to go through this real quick. Give me one sec. Okay, so this is the document here. It's a very down and dirty one. It's asking price, the revenue, that's the income, that's the money coming into the business, the cash flow or the SDE. So that's the money coming in, your net operating income, that's after all your expenses. All of this is going to get populated for you when you populate this. You're going to go ahead and populate Jalen, inform me if I'm wrong here. They're going to put the asking price, they're going to put the revenue, and then everything else is going to get populated, or remind me.
Gotcha, man. So they're going to have to get the EBITDA and the revenue on the right side there, 2021, 2022, and 2023. It's going to spit out the average automatically, and then it's going to give them a multiple based on that asking price.
Got it. And then they're going to fill in what? The asking price and then the revenue EBITDA?
Mhm.
Okay. Could you do me a favor? Could you just change the color of the ones that they're going to fill in? That way people know what to fill in, and that way they don't get confused on which ones. Because I know that if I went here, I probably would have tried to fill them all out.
I did
gotcha.
try to fill them all out. Yeah, make it a yellow box. That's awesome.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Good feedback. Awesome sauce. If this pops up green, so if you pop this all in and then it pops up green, then go ahead and submit it to us, because if it doesn't come up green, we really don't want to, you don't want to really waste too much time on it. We're just basically giving a basic calculation. And can you just give us the basic calculation that you did, Jalen? Was it what, 50% expenses we kind of did, or what did you punch in to give it the test, the cash flow test?
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, Marley can jump on this too. But if I recall, it needs to be cash flowing at least 10K net per month to be considered. Because otherwise there's not enough wiggle room in there.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, that's in the side, everyone. It'll be in every email we send out as well. Thank Jalen for that. He's been doing amazing, setting all this stuff up, sending all these emails. We're so grateful to have Jalen on the team as part of this partnership. And we just want to make sure that we're bringing you as much value as we can so that you can check stuff out and be part of this. So please invite people to this. We've had a pretty good numbers today. We had about 13. I would love to see this double or triple next week. Thank you all so much and have a fantastic day.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.